tuletea na wisdom, tuletea te abola na mutu, tuletea na wisdom, yes, tapatia mano, yes, tuleka na mufi, bola na wisdom, yeah, bola na mano, yeah, bola na mutu, abana ndiye. Ati no more collect handouts. To live firework power, water, more ideas. To live work for my youth. Twale mana ama slogans ya movie. Apani bola na mano. Our future need a movement for good governance. Tuletea na mano. Tuletea na movie. Tukwata mano. Na tukwate knowledge. Tuletea. Tuletea na wisdom, yes, tuletea na wisdom, yes, tapatia mano, yes, tuleka na mufi, tuletea na mano, bibi si ufishako, tuletea na mano. Just the last song, we can start now. I'll not be too long with you. If you feel that you need to share, you can share. So guys, we are starting in exactly by 2010. So you can enjoy this last song. Okay? Bakeo Binchibamba kulishani ku Tanzania. Kwana vya kushtaka unga hapa vya dipenefinto amaleti ya mweneka wana alifirwa bakana mba natasha kufotera msipila kutuwa papa kwa kana kutuwa nenge changani chapuna Binwell Mpundu isazo tutule katundu mama yoto mpundu tola luka kumimuru na iseni tubange poseko Bange Moseko. Moseko.
Okay. Yeah. Like I did promise you, dear friends, countrymen and women, tonight I'll start a series of interactions with you, in which interactions I want us to look at Bill 7. All right? Now, there's been so much talk about Bill 7, oftentimes without us delving into the salient issues. What is it about Bill 7 that is making some of us, agitated? Or what is it about Bill 7 that is making people upset and wanting this process to be stopped, forthwith? And so today, I will start this series of conversations. I won't be long. I want to restrict myself to an hour because, again, when we do so much, it becomes monotonous and people have got so much, else to do, so much things to do, okay? And so today, which is Thursday, tomorrow, Saturday, rather Friday, Saturday, and I want to end on Sunday as I conclude these conversations around what is contained in Bill 7 that is making people, agitated. All right? Now, I want to say this. I have dedicated these 4 days to speaking to Bill 7 because I don't want to overload you with so much information, because then by the time I'll be finishing, you would have been confused about what I spoke about, from the start. All right? And so I will ensure that the clauses that are bulky, I take the whole day. As it is today, I'll restrict myself to speaking to the issue of delimitation, the issue of proportionate representation, because they are more or less speaking to the same issue. So I'll confine myself to the issue of delimitation as well as the issue of proportionate representation, because, like I did intimate in my postings, it is very clear why people are upset, why some of us are skeptical about the process of this constitutional amendment, because behind the scenes, or there's a deliberate intention to more or less, forgive me, technology is failing me. Okay, so it looks like there is an intention to have a 2/3 majority inbuilt in what is being proposed in Bill 10. I think that this is what we are going to now delve in. Now, I want to make an appeal as we start this conversation. This is not an ordinary conversation. This is a technical conversation that allows some of us, some of you who don't have a full understanding of what the Constitution is or how the law is enacted, to pay attention so that you may perhaps learn one or two things. It is often a fashion in politics that for as long as you don't like Binwell, ngamba fyokulanda, you have to start insulting or otherwise discrediting him. I think that what will help this country is for us to be having very candid conversation where we get to argue on facts. What I'm going to present here may not be the gospel truth, okay? It is subject to rebuttals, okay? You can argue with me. You can forward your proposition or your, viewpoints, okay? So that we then can battle on facts and ideas, all right? Now, what makes me qualified to speak to this subject this evening? Colleagues, those of you who have known me now, I am originally an accountant. I studied NATEC back in the days. Those of you who have listened to my story, in fact, I am one of the few who broke the records of NATEC, vis-a-vis how long anyone could complete the NATEC program. I am on record to have successfully completed the NATEC program in only 1 year, 6 months, all right, which is a program that was designed for 2 years. So I am an accountant by profession. But there was a point in my life or on my journey when I joined politics, and I thought I needed to acquaint myself with the law. So I went into school, enrolled with the University of Zambia, to basically just acquaint myself with the law, and I started studying, pursuing a diploma in law with the University of Zambia. Okay, and I got a merit. I think I just missed by a few points to get, a distinction in that, program that I undertook now. Why I undertook a diploma in law was not for me to go and practice the law, or law as it is. But because I decided to get into politics, I basically wanted to have an understanding of the law. Because I think that when you are in politics, remember, when you are a member of parliament, your job is all about making laws. So in my mind, I was thinking, one day I'm going to be a member of parliament. If I become a member of parliament, how am I going to function if I don't understand how the law works? So I think that from the little knowledge I have learned in school about law, from the program that I studied, even though some people mocks it, I am best qualified to delve into the matters of Bill 7. Because not only am I a lawmaker, because remember, whatever it is that you can think of, Bill 7 will still have to end in Parliament if it is proceeding by the adamants of the UPND. It means, therefore, that it is we who are going to decide whether Bill 7 or the Constitution must be amended or not. So by virtue of me being a member of Parliament, and by virtue of me having studied a little bit of law, I think that I own a little bit of some authority to have a chance to discuss Bill 7 and what is contained in Bill 7. Now, it is also important that we can't continue going on a journey of chochise about the evils or the beauty of Bill 7 without necessarily delving into these clauses to understand the meaning of these clauses and the implications thereof. So it is important, and I thought, at the back of my mind, that we needed to have this very candid conversation. You can share this with lawyers and friends who are interested in understanding what this issue is about. Because today we are talking about Bill 7. In fact, Bill 7 has become a very thorny issue in this country to a point where the head of state seemingly is furious with those who are objecting Bill 7. Sadly, to a point where the head of state seems to be suggesting those who are objecting Bill 7 simply hates him. Now, point of correction, Mr. President, there's nobody who hates you. In fact, the people of Zambia loves you. That is why they, unanimously, let me not use unanimously, in huge numbers, went to vote for you because they love you. They voted for you not because of where you come from, not because you are special, but because they had trust in your ability to provide leadership for this country. That is why all those numbers were given to your account, 2.8 million. So it is folly to think today that the very people that entrusted you with the power to govern this country today hates you just because they've questioned you over one decision, and that decision is Bill 7. So it must be noted, myself as an example, I don't shy away from things that I don't believe in. As many of you may want to know, I was serving as District Commissioner of Kitwe when Bill 10 was being undertaken by the PF government. Those of you who were in Kitwe, or at least who follows what has been happening, you remember that I crashed with one of the proponents of Bill 10 who was a member of parliament from Kitwe, who was sent by the PF party to go and discuss Bill 10 on a radio program. That was Ya FM. I called into this radio program and differed very sharply with the member of parliament because there are certain clauses I did not agree to in Bill 10. This unfortunately almost costed my job as district commissioner, but I stood my ground, which I think eventually saw Honorable Nakachinda leading a team to look at some of those contentious issues that were not sitting well with the people. And I have in mind one clause where they were trying to insist that a public servant should leave the public service for at least 2 years before they can qualify to participate or to stand for any political position. I sharply objected this clause, and I differed with this particular member of parliament on radio. And remember that as a civil servant, you are bound by collective responsibility. And so the powers that be thought it was an act of insolence or disobedience that I could object what government was trying to implement. So some of you who don't know me should now know that when I don't agree with you, I will tell you regardless of the relationship that we enjoy. Okay? There are some things that I have agreed with the UPND, and there are some things that I have sharply disagreed with, and that is my position. In this case, I am one of those who do not agree that today we should embark on a constitutional amendment process for various reasons. And today I have decided to now unpack these clauses. Now, those of you who have followed this story of Bill 10, or rather Bill 7, who remember, the president from nowhere started speaking to the Constitution. You remember he was addressing Parliament one day when he spoke to lacunas. It became part of our daily conversation. No, there is a lacuna, there's a lacuna. And so he was suggesting that because of this lacuna, we must amend the Constitution. Now, what the president forgot to do, and I can understand because he hasn't studied, law like some of us, is that a lacuna means a gap. Okay? A misunderstanding about provisions of the Constitution do not necessarily mean there is a lacuna. A lacuna simply means a gap. I don't think there are any gaps in this Constitution that needs filling. What I do believe exists in this Constitution are provisions that are contentious. All right? So, the president started speaking to lacunas existing in the Constitution. The next thing we heard was the president again addressing Parliament, where now he announced to the general public, to the citizens of Zambia, that he had been, or they had agreed to amend the Constitution. Now, whoever they agreed with, or whoever the president agrees or agreed with to amend the Constitution, is another subject of discussion, perhaps for another day. What is very clear is that the president did not agree with anybody else other than his own team. And I want to believe that they sat somewhere, whether it was in Community House or at State House, to agree that we must amend the Constitution, and they also agreed which clauses in the Constitution needed to be amended. So it was their own making, and they eventually came up with what they called Bill 7. Now, Bill 7 is a list of 13 clauses that the UPND, in their own rights, decided to amend in our Constitution. Now, it must be understood, for those of you who wants to know, that the Constitution is a very sacred document which basically prescribes the nature of this country, or who we are as a country, okay? How we are going to be governed, all right? It is so important that no one person can tamper with this particular set of laws. What I know very well is that the other laws, for instance, the Acts of Parliament, all those laws we make in Parliament on a day-to-day basis, can be changed at any given time and only requires a simple majority. Those who votes more than the others, then that becomes a law. For the Constitution to change it, it requires, as an example, that the members of Parliament who have the authority to amend the law, who have the duty to change or to make laws, votes by a 2/3 of the entire membership of Parliament. 2/3 must vote for a particular clause in the Constitution to be amended. Now, previously, in 1964, the whole Constitution could not be amended unless we took it to the people through a referendum. But I think that later on, it was decided that we free the document and only left, part 3 of the Constitution, which embodies our rights. The right to the freedom to rights and freedoms and liberties are enshrined in what is called the Bill of Rights, which is part 3 of our Constitution. This part 3 of our Constitution is still sealed, that an attempt to change it will require us to go for a referendum. Now, another day I may speak to what a referendum means and what constitutes a referendum and all that stuff. But it is important as we start this conversation to understand where we are coming from and where we are. The starting point is that the UPND messed up the initial process of amending this constitution, because from the time of UNIP and by law requirement, you cannot amend the constitution without expressly getting permission from the Zambian people. And that is why the Inquiries Act, which is also one piece of law, gives power to a president to constitute a team of technical people. When I say technical people, it is Zambians who have a proper understanding of constitutional matters. The president is given the power through the Inquiries Act to constitute a team, which team is supposed to go to the Zambian people. That is why you see every other time we are embarking on a constitution making process, you will have a team that goes throughout the country to get submission from the people. Now, that is the origin of any constitutional making process. You must go to the people, ask them what they would want amended in the constitution. When they give you their proposals, that is when this technical team must now put together all those proposals into a draft. We call it a bill. Okay? So, where the UPND missed it is they themselves decided to come up with these proposals, and they crafted a bill or a draft bill, a constitution amendment draft bill, which they called Bill 7. That is where the problem started from. The procedure should have been, you go to the people, and make no mistake, there should not be anybody who should say, we have done so many collections of views from the people, so this time we are going to avoid going to the people, like the UPND lamented through the President Hakainde Hichilema, who said we are going to avoid costs. Unfortunately, sir, when it comes to the Constitution, you cannot have a shortcut. That is why the Constitutional Court ruled that exercise, void or illegal. Because when it comes to making the Constitution or amending the Constitution, there cannot be shortcuts where you say, no, we are not going to go throughout the country to get submissions because we are avoiding incurring costs. There are no shortcuts with amending the constitution. Governance is a very costly undertaking, and amending the constitution cannot be done without or by avoiding cost, because you risk doing something wrong as dictated by the Constitutional Court. That is where the problem started, where the president and his team decided to avoid going to the people. They decided on their own to decide which clauses were going to be amended in the Constitution. In their own thinking, they said, we are only going to look at non-contentious issues in the Constitution, and those are the issues we are going to amend. Now, unfortunately, when we talk about non-contentious, it is you who is going to think this clause is non-contentious, but the next person will think that clause is very contentious and very important. That is where the problem is. And so it is always advisable that you cannot jump the queue, or you cannot cut corners when it comes to amending the Constitution. So here we are. The UPND decided to include 13 clauses in our current constitution, and they decided how to change or how to frame those clauses. And they also added a few other clauses in a draft they called Bill 7. So there are 13 clauses in Bill 7. Now, what bothers me today is that some patriotic citizens, in the name of our incarcerated brother, the one wa UPND vafyenga vamutwala kuchifungo Munia Zulu, and our brother Celestine decided to go to court. Imagine, like I said the last time, Munia, who is in jail, decides to use or to exercise his patriotism and decides, unlike me and some of you, decides to defend our constitution from where is in incarceration, and took this government to court, challenged the process of enacting or amending the constitution through Bill 7. Interestingly, the Constitutional Court ruled that indeed the process or procedure adopted by the UPND was flawed. And the Constitutional Court dictated that we must start the process by going to the people. So the origin of the Constitution amendment process, as dictated by the Constitutional Court, must be from the people. So you must go to the people. The people are the ones who must tell you, Wikeni mwechi, fumieni mwechi. Wikeni mwechi, fumieni mwechi. Interestingly, today, the president decides to defer Bill 7 from Parliament. Now, when you defer, you have not taken away, you have not stopped the process. You have simply paused the process. This is the argument people have had. This is the argument we've had with the president. The president did not follow the ruling of the Constitutional Court and did not act with honesty. When the Constitutional Court ruled, he should have completely dismantled Bill 7, ruled it out or taken it out of Parliament for him to start the process. Interestingly, the president simply deferred the process, put it on a pause. As we speak today, Bill 7 is still in Parliament. That is how come today you and me are still discussing Bill 7. Doesn't it bother you that a process that was stopped with all its contents is still being discussed? Doesn't it bother you? Okay? Because when the president now decided to constitute a technical committee or a technical team, what are they doing? What were they doing when they went throughout the country to get submission? What submissions were they receiving? If as we speak today, we are still speaking to Bill 7 and its contents. It tells you one thing, by UPND babufi, they are deceptive. Because batushinga bata, they've gone round the country, ukubomfiaba technical committee, pretending that they've gone to get submissions from the people, when in fact we are still discussing the same Bill 7 that they had said had been withdrawn. I want you to follow me very right. Why you see people being skeptical and fighting this thing is because because Bill 7 was not stopped by the president. The president simply asked for Bill 7 to be deferred or to be put on hold. Now, when the Constitutional Court ruled, it meant go and start afresh. If by constituting a technical committee, the president instructed that we start this process from the word go or from a new page, why are we still speaking to the contents of Bill 7 which should have been discarded? Because by now we should have been waiting for the technical committee to produce a new list of clauses that we should have now started speaking to, which clauses should have come from the people through that exercise that the technical committee undertook. But between you and me, we are still discussing Bill 7 and its contents. The president is still discussing Bill 7 and its contents. It tells you whatever you saw the technical committee doing was simply an academic exercise or a fishing expedition. All right? What is true is that we are still dealing with the Bill 7 and its contents. No wonder they did not withdraw Bill 7. They simply deferred it. It is still sitting in Parliament with all its full contents. That is why it's important to rekonkana, because we Zambians have become so easily deceptive or deceived. We can easily be deceived. So sometimes it's sungu chilalubana, and sometimes I would put an ara padi L because I'm Bemba. There are no aras in Bemba. So when you hear a wrong pronunciation or napuset sungu, just know nalelo walirira kuskulu. Now, it is important, fellow citizens, because the Constitution defines who we are as a people of Zambia. And that is why nobody should be allowed to tamper with this Constitution unless we all unanimously agree. And it must become, it is the order of the day. Any leader with any semblance of leadership in them must ensure that they convince, even if it meant a pocket of people who are disagreeing, it must be upon the leadership to ensure that you convince them. Because when you don't convince them, you are enacting the law for who? All right? I wanted to give that summary so that in the next 30 minutes, I now start dealing with the actual contents that people are that we are disagreeing with, that don't mean well to the Zambian people. I hope you have followed me as I've given the preamble. I will now start dealing with the actual provisions or clauses that have been proposed as sitting in Bill 7, because we can conclude what will come from the technical committee is exactly what is contained in Bill 7. By the way, when we look at the terms of reference that were given to this committee, because the terms of reference is what defines the job that the technical committee is going to do. All right? If you look at the list of terms of reference, the technical committee was simply instructed, go to the people and ask them what they feel about, number one, delimitation. Go to the people, ask them what they feel about inclusion of women and the youth, about this. All those clauses that were in Bill 7 is what the president mandated the technical committee to go and ask the people what their feelings were. It therefore tells you what the technical committee was doing was not initiating a conversation with the people or receiving new submissions. They were basically going to the people to ask them, what do you feel about this, about that, about that? Again, that is flawed. That is not how you amend the Constitution. You don't predetermine what must come from the people, because as it is now, whatever is going to come out of the technical committee is predetermined. And I'll be very shocked that I'll see anything different from what is already sitting in Bill 7. Because for all I know, the technical committee has not yet submitted its draft or report. We are still discussing Bill 7, because between you and me, it is still Bill 7 we'll be dealing with even when the technical committee concludes its work. That is why all this thing is shrouded, is covered with deception. All right? It is covered with deception. Now, I'll start now unpacking these clauses that we feel are inimical or inimical chisungwain are not sitting well with the people. Number one, I'll start with delimitation. So in Bill 7, it has been proposed that the National Assembly will increase seats to align with the Electoral Commission of Zambia delimitation report. So we'll increase the National Assembly seats to align with the Electoral Commission delimitation report. The Electoral Commission did embark on a report under the PF to look at the size of the constituencies, the population, and others, because to cut constituents or to delimitate, you look at a number of things: the size of the constituencies as well as the population. Now, I must state this fact for those of you who are listening so that you are not duped. Delimitation does not always result in the creation of new constituencies. I want you to mark this. Delimitation does not always or should not always result in the creation of new constituencies. Delimitation simply refers to the realigning of electoral boundaries, meaning that you can actually realign constituencies without even increasing or adding more constituents or creating more constituencies. Why should you increase constituencies? You want to increase constituencies because you want more representation. That is what Bill 7 is saying. We want more representation. That is why we want to increase more constituents. We want more money to go into the constituencies. Now, that is not correct. If the government wants to allocate more resources to communities, they don't necessarily have to increase constituencies. As an example, PF left CDF at 1.6 million. The UPND have increased the CDF from 1.6 million to 40 million as we speak today. Has there been any delimitation? No. Can't they increase more money? Yes, they can. So I am here telling you, increasing money to constituencies does not need you to create more constituencies. You can simply budget for more resources to go into the already existing constituencies. What you can do otherwise is to realign the boundaries so that if, as an example, Nkana constituency is smaller than Kwacha, you realign the wards so that Nkana extends to have a bigger space to cover or to cut into Kwacha. That way, you don't create new constituencies, because the dangers of creating new constituencies is that you are going to increase more cost of running government, because you create, costs for maintaining an MP, you create costs for maintaining my PA and all the staff. You will have to incur cost to establish a constituency office and everything associated. So the cost of one MP or one constituency is huge and cannot be done, especially when a country is stressed financially or economically, as the case is here in Zambia today. So it is not correct for anybody to insinuate that the only way development can go to the people, the only way you can allocate more resources to the people, is when you increase constituencies. This is what the UPND is proposing. There currently exists 156 constituencies in Zambia. All right? 156 constituencies in Zambia. Already when you look at that parliament, that building is too small. That building is too small. It is already housing 156 constituencies or MPs, plus the 8 nominated MPs, plus the 2 MPs who are the speaker and the first deputy speaker. So we have 166 members of parliament currently sitting in that small parliament. The UPND is proposing to increase the number by 55. They want to create 55 new constituencies. Now, interestingly, the delimitation report has not indicated which constituencies today the UPND has decided to create. From the time that this conversation started, doesn't it bother you that up to now, the president and his team have failed to name the constituencies they want to create? That question has been asked by so many people, including traditional leaders, who wants to know which new constituencies are you proposing to increase or create? Because all these things must be transparently done. Your guess is as good as mine. When the constitution passes, the UPND will simply wake up and say, we have created the new constituencies, namely one in Nangoma, one in Kasempa, one in Shangombo. They will create constituencies in the areas where they are strong. Are you going to argue with them? No. Because the creation of constituencies is based on a delimitation report, which report they've hidden up to now. The 55 constituencies they've decided to create, they've not said which one and where they are going to be. Your guess is as good as mine. They want to take them in their strongholds. Otherwise, they would have already announced which constituencies they are proposing to delimitate, so that even us maybe can say, how naineka constituency can put to the let me support this process. But as it is, the process looks very suspicious, and your guess could be as good as mine. They want to create those new constituencies in places where they are strong. That's number one. Now, you want to create 55 new constituencies, meaning that you are going to create 55 new members of parliament to go and pack them in the already packed parliament. Karakeneka building kariaka kwata abantu 166 and it is already packed. You want to go and throw in 55 new people there. On top of that, imagine the cost to the country of 55 new members of parliament. On top of that, the UPND have proposed that they are now going to increase the numbers of MPs the president nominates from 8 to 10. So from 55, they want to increase 2 more. So they are going to be 57. On top of that, the president has also proposed through Bill 7 that they are now going to embark, or rather adopt, 2 ways in which we can have MPs through the normal process of going to elections, first past the post. You go into the constituencies, elect an MP through a process they call first past the post, meaning that uwakwatama votes ayengi. They now want to also introduce another system which is called the mixed member proportional representation. The mixed member proportional representation. This is a process where you will have special, more or less like special seats. And they are proposing, in the name of inclusion, that we are going to create 20 special seats for women, 12 special seats for youth, and 3 special seats for the disabled. Interestingly, the youth are bigger in number in Zambia. Why would you propose by youth hired 12 seats if we were genuinely considering to embrace young people and give them a chance to be part of parliament or decision making? You've only given them 12 seats when the population of Zambia is actually 75% youth. So imeba youth they want to create 12 seats. And I don't think you understand that you will never have a chance to be amongst the 12. But the other 12, it will be a prerogative of the president to decide who is going to make it to the list of those 12. Your guess is as good as mine. It will just be relatives, as the case is now, where all those people who are appointed into foreign service are simply people who are aligned with the powers that be. That is fact. Go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, ask for a list of all the people who have been sent into foreign service. Ask them who they are related to. You will find umwana waba mwali teta, umwana waba nani. So what makes you think you as a youth, you are going to make it on the list of those who are going to be given a right to go and sit in parliament by the president? What makes you as a woman think that you are going to make it on the list of those 20 women who are going to be taken in parliament? All right? Now, it therefore means from the 166 members of parliament who currently sit in our parliament today, UPND is proposing to add an additional 92 members, MPs. 92 on top of the 166. 92 is coming from number 1, 55, through the creation of new constituencies, 55, which are going to obviously sit in the strongholds of UPND, since they've not been able to tell us which constituents they want to create. 20 special seats for women, 12 special seats for youth, 3 special seats for those who are disabled, and 2 new appointees by way of nominations. So the number goes to 92 new members of parliament. Colleagues, fellow citizens, do you know the cost of 92 members of parliament? 92. That is a huge cost on the part of, or rather for a country like Zambia that is struggling to meet its social needs. Okay? So you must understand this is what is being proposed. Now, I will tell you now, this is what you must pay attention to. Kulina abalenje bati you are a liar. Palipo nefyo mbeperi hapa. You are a liar. You are wasting your time. If I'm wasting your time, why are you here? Abantu balasekeshaini. Okay, I am here for those who are interested in understanding national matters, not for you. Imwe ba novo ham. Now, to prevent any government from manipulating the Constitution, the law requires that for any clause of the Constitution to be amended, 2/3 of the members of Parliament must vote yes. 2/3. The current Constitution the current composition of Parliament is that we have 166 members of Parliament. To amend the Constitution, even to amend through this same Bill 7, it will mean that we must have 2/3. 2/3 times 166 members must vote and say yes to Bill 7. It means you must have 100, at least 110, 100, I think 111, because even the Speaker votes. So we need 111 members of Parliament saying yes to Bill 7 for it to pass. Now, the requirement of the 2/3 was created so that nobody just wakes up and say, "Tuala chinja constitution because not kwatama numbers." Okay? That is why the issue of safeguarding the Constitution through that requirement was created. The same way is for removing the immunities of a president. You need 2/3. The same way, if you want to sell an asset of government, you need 2/3. Those requirements were so that we protect the interests of the nation. You protect the assets of the nation, you protect the legacy of a president, you protect the Constitution of the Republic by ensuring that the majority are the ones who says yes. The other laws that we enact in Parliament, we enact them through a simple majority, meaning that bakuchira kufena ngukamo nishidiapite funde. Now, what the president through Bill 7 is trying to do is to give unfettered power. Chisungwe trying na additionally shibako akachisungwaka. Unfettered power. Excessive is the other word for unfettered, or powers that cannot be checked. Through Bill 7, the president is trying to give the presidency unfettered power to have control over Parliament. Because it is the president who is going to be deciding who goes into Parliament through the special seats for women. It is the president who is going to decide who goes into Parliament through the special seats for the youth. It is the president who is going to decide who goes into Parliament through disabilities. He will have too many numbers of people who will be singing yes bwana to him. That is on top of the members of Parliament who would have been elected under the political party of that president. This therefore means there is a silent attempt to remove that cover. Ilia 2/3. Mrengu fuisha ngamwa pange mistake where you give the president so much control, because as it is, the president controls the current parliament. The speakers we have are at the mercy of the president, because even the appointment of the speaker, it is the president who proposes who becomes the speaker. That is why if we, as a movement for good governance, when we get into power, the appointment of the speaker is going to change. Just like the appointment of judges and the firing of judges, the appointment of the chief justice will change, because it is not healthy to have the president controlling the judiciary, the president controlling parliament. What is being attempted to be done under Bill 7 is to give unfettered power for the president to have so much control in parliament beyond the control that he currently exists, or rather exercises, over the speaker, who is nominated and proposed by the president himself. Now, these are dangers for a democracy. You cannot give absolute power to a president. You risk making a dictator. Milo, when the president has these powers where he can control who goes into parliament through the nominations, through the special seats, Milo president akesa abuka fiat sentu chinje constitution tufumieko term limit, sentu chinje constitution tufumieko or tulundeko the number of years one can say which constitute a term, as was being proposed by Bakavindele. Let's increase a term from 5 to 7. President Ngakwata ambo control parliament akesa abuka fiat tulunde term ikala about 10 years. Are you going to have anything to say? No. Which is why at this stage, before we amend the constitution, we must be clear not to, rather to avoid giving this excess power or unfettered power to the president, because you risk creating a monster. Are we following each other, colleagues? Bane, we have 156 MPs. What is being said here? To increase the seats in parliament so that we enhance representation and democracy by ensuring more citizens have a voice in parliament. You want to increase more MPs so that there are more voices in parliament. Already, the MPs who are there, they don't even say anything, most of them. Some of your MPs have not even said a word. Nga nifua bofe banunka na mukano wangu waikala for 5 minutes. Bamono kununkanga balanunka na mukano watatuwa mfuafi. You understand, right? Because, oh, by the way, kununka mukano means nga na wikala feta uliranda, your mouth is about, it's nature, it's biology. Okay, we'll start producing a stench because there's metabolism happening in the mouth and in the stomach, and it goes through the mouth. So the more you speak, the more the the aroma from metabolism reactions comes out, and your mouth will still be clean. Anyway, I'll confuse you. I'm not going to go that route. So what I'm trying to say is that the assumption that we need more representation is flawed, because as it is, 166 members of parliament are still too much. Because, by the way, tulakwata ma debates area where the speaker decides only watatu abalalandapo. So why do you want to have 258 MPs when, as it is now, the 166 MPs kubafi ati bamipera fi batatu ati mulanda pali bill batatu fi abantu? So how are you going to have more representation when already the system there is, the MP are too many for the time we have in parliament? There are too many. Mulamone for tuwida kututa debate. Even the time to debate has been restricted to only 8 minutes because we are too many there. Why do you want to create more and overburden the already burdened coffers of government? Bane, these are things that we must objectively and patriotically be analyzing. On a given day, when the country, manages to, realign its economy, to fiawa me fintu, you can attempt to do these proposals. Not today. This country is stressed economically. You cannot go on this expedition where you want to create 92 more seats. And most dangerously so, you don't want to, cleverly give more powers to the president to begin to manipulate, parliament. Because Milo, power is very sweet. Milo wa president wakesa abuka fiat awe twala chinja constitution. He would have a 2/3 majority which is being embedded in Bill 7. Bill 7, I want to tell you, is, there's an inbuilt attempt. Inbuilt. There is an attempt to have an inbuilt 2/3 majority. I want to put it very clear in context. There is an attempt by the UPND to have an inbuilt, mukati, cleverly slotted, mwabikapo mwapela maka president ala control la parliament beyond just the speaker, because the control of the president at current time is through the MPs abaku UPND and the speaker. But if he has more to nominate, more to appoint by way of the special seats, mwala panga monster. You are going to create a monster. These are some of the things we are against. You cannot give, or you cannot go on an exercise that is covered with deception. Namely, number one, you don't even know the 55 constituencies. Eko yakaba ni kuisa. Which constituencies are going to be created? It is covered. The 20 women who are going to be taken to parliament, who can actually decide ni nani? Ni president. The youth who are going to be taken to parliament, but the 12, who is going to be deciding? Ni president. The disabled, ni president. But the 2, the extra nomination, ni president. Timwa perasha ni president akwate 10 nominated, 20 women, 12 youth, 3 disabled. Elo nomba mupele na maka ya kuisata decide ukaba abali 55 valia ama the new created constituencies. Come on Zambians, we can't be this gullible. No, gullible said we can't easily be lied to or manipulated in thoughts. All right, this Bane is one of the reasons why we are saying no to Bill 7. Or maybe let me add this other issue so that you now see that you are trying to give or to create a monster. They are proposing through Bill 7 that when a member of parliament dies, there shall not be a by-election in the name of avoiding cost. I want to repeat, governance is a very costly exercise. When you try to avoid costs, you risk creating problems. The UPND is trying to suggest that, let's say an MP, Binwell Mpundu, dies today. Because Binwell is independent, that is when we are going to have a by-election in Nkana. But if in Kamfinsa, I've used Kamfinsa because Kudiumunandi Kangombe. If Kangombe dies, then ba PF bafuiro kusala po umbiwa kuya piana Kangombe. Takwava ukoku kana tonton kanya. Because when the people choose a leader, or when we go to elections, it is the people who have the powers to choose who is going to lead them. Then you want the political party to decide who is going to represent them. Again, you are creating an opportunity for the president to decide who is going to be in that constituency. Eventually, kukalaba okulatamfyanya mwamutamfya Binwell from a political party, and when you chase Binwell from a political party, then you can now put another one who is loyal to the president. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Are you getting what I'm saying? Napuisha okulanda pali bali abali 92. And I'm saying, watch out. You are risking creating a monster because you are giving too much power of the president to decide on so many people that are going to go to parliament. Here is another problem you have to be careful with. When you decide that you are going to avoid by-elections by way of saying whoever is expelled by the political party, that political party will bring another person. Whoever dies, whichever MP dies, that political party that sponsored that person who has died will bring another person to represent that constituency. You are creating a monster because the president is the one who is going to be deciding, oh, Binwell mutamfyeni. Ngatoa mutamfya sentubike po uyu. Pantu yu ewa abaloyo kulifwe. It means you are going to create members of parliament. Aba kalata fe, yes bwana. Ngakola fe president, yes bwana. Because bade tina ukubatamfya. Because the process of replacing them will be easy. It will just be the president who will be deciding, replace Binwell by Kantwa. Because Binwell touch voter padi idia biu yesu. Are you trying to get me by Busa, Bishoy, Bizek, Chingaipe? Colleagues, we cannot risk creating monsters in Zambia. We've seen in other countries where, the ruling parties are controlling parliament 98% as the case is in Tanzania. You can't have that situation here in Zambia. We must have a healthy opposition so that those in power are put to check or are held in check. It's trying. So today, colleagues, I have given you food for thought. I know there are going to be rebuttals. I will still come back if people will argue over what I've submitted, but I've just given you something to think around. The delimitation. Delimitation does not always result or should not always result in the creation of new constituents. Delimitation is not the only way in which more resources are going to come into constituencies. To give people more resources in communities does not always depend on creating new constituencies. No. You can create or you can give more resources to communities by simply allocating more resources through the national budget. That parliament is still too bloated. Bahadi fulisha abantu is too packed. You can't create an extra 92 members of parliament. Again, you can't give these unfettered powers to the president to begin to control parliament, because ultimately you are giving the president too much power, too many people to take to parliament. He will manipulate that parliament because through the speaker, already the president is able to manipulate parliament. What more when you now give him a chance to now nominate almost the entire parliament? What are you trying to build? What are you trying to create? When we argue on these bases, we don't hate the president. Just like I don't think HH, when he objected Bill 10, he hated Edgar Lungu. Unless that is what he is now suggesting to us. I never heard where President Lungu suggested that the Catholic Church hated him because they objected Bill 10. Or the Oasis Forum hated President ECL because they objected Bill 10. I never heard those sentiments. So the president must never think that we hate him when we challenge him based on these facts. So today, I just wanted to take 1 hour. It's exactly 1 hour. I've spoken to one issue, delimitation, and of course, I've also spoken to by-elections. By-elections cannot be avoided. If you want to avoid by-election, then let us agree. The day we are going to change the constitution, we must decide that if one MP dies, The next person who got the more votes or more votes must then become MP. Then we are okay. But to suggest that when an MP dies, the political party where he comes from must propose another person, you are lying, because that person has not been voted by the people. At least the person who got the second highest vote at least was voted by the people, except the other person got more votes. So if you are going to propose that we avoid the cost of by-election, the next best contestant must be the one who must become an MP, as opposed to you proposing that the parliamentary or the political party that sponsored the person who has either been expelled from the party or has died or has resigned must be replaced by the political party where he comes from. That is flawed. You are giving again more power to a president of that political party to have more control of the members of parliament. That is why today you have members of parliament who literally act like zombies, because they are scared of the people who appointed them or who nominated them or who adopted them. The only people forever kwata freedom ni forever. Ifo ba independence, ifo ko chabukira. Lelonga wala ponta kuponta, malonga wala seka kuseka. Lelonga wala bana bakuba, malonga wala bana bakuba. Okay? We must never create a monster blindly as we are doing in supporting this Bill 7 without interrogating the ingredients of Bill 7, the meanings and the implications of those proposals. Tomorrow at 20 hours, I'm back to look at other clauses of Bill 7. God bless you. I thank you very much. I now leave up to you to dissect what I've said. I am not the authority. I've simply spoken to what I know best around what has been proposed. This is subject to rebuttals or to challenge, because they are my opinion based on my experience having served in government for some times, based on my experience having served as a member of parliament for 4 years, based on the little knowledge I have over the law. Mwamuna tika diploma mulilo kalabomba tefyo na mumfo tsungu ndebo mfyapa tuamulilo tatile nasa mbilile. That is for you who says ali kwata diploma mulo. Tuefu mo tsungu tuamulilo. God bless you. Thank you very much. Enjoy your night. See you tomorrow. The Ela Namwila Habans. How are you? Thank you very much. First on, ba Oblim Sonda. William Gia, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nsangu Helen Mukuka Monga, thank you. God bless you too, my dear sister. Thank you. Bankandu Abraham, thank you. You are learning. We are also learning. Honest Jones Chibala, you are a man enough. Thank you, fighting for the people. That's my job. That's my job, my brother, and I'll keep on fighting. Ngabaka tutwala kuchifungo, that so be it. It is for a good cause. Clara Kampirimba, Clara Nimbesaba, Shina Yapala Dikayedi. Okay, now Lufia. All right. Malfred Perry, I'm learning. Okay. Michael Nice. The MPs means more expenses, correct? Luka Yamba. Okay. Ernest Chibuye, thank you very much. Roy Chama, the future speaker of the house, God willing. Matthew Mubangori Mwamesana, thank you so very much. Thank you guys. Enjoy your night. This you can replay it and dissect it, discuss it, and we can come and agree or disagree over what I have said. Ichabaiche all the world. By the way, don't forget to join Ichabaiche. The future of this country ni Muchabaiche. You know what they, bole for your buying. Arsenal, have you seen what has happened to Arsenal? Arsenal has brought in more players, new players, and the coach has changed the system. So two things are very important for Zambia to reshape its destiny. New players in the political arena, as well as new systems. Part of the systems we must change is how some of these people are appointed by speaker, by the judges. These systems we've been using are outdated and have brought more harm than good to this country. That is why Ichabache is saying when we come into power, we are going to start from a fresh page. So invite your friends to come into Ichabache. You can join whether you are a civil servant. It's www.ichabache.com. It will give you a form that you fill in. You become a member with a card. Even when you are a public servant, you can join Ichabache. You will have a card, only you will know. And me who is an admin, I will know that Michael is now a joiner. So God bless you. Don't despair. The Lord loves this country and is going to ensure that the correct thing is done. Shalom, shalom. Good night. Apa tuli muteni. Small boy. Small boy. What are you doing outside? What are you doing? Hey, small girl.
Yes.
What are you up to?
I want to get the chapter for Mom.
Okay. All right.